on today. Thanks for being here, and we'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome all those, and I did see a few on my list today that were referred to us from the Mike Harris radio show here in Los Angeles. Mike has a talk show here on Saturday mornings on KFWB just about the real estate business. Just what we're talking about here today, and Mike usually uses a 3 or 4 minute piece of his show every Saturday to promote what we're doing here on these webinars and how you can benefit from investment real estate. So for those that registered through the Mike Harris radio show, I want to say thank you and welcome here this afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, I've been doing these webinars now for about 4 years. I've done educational webinars with a number of different specialized REO groups like Summit Asset Groups and REO Reseller over the past years. I do typically anywhere from 2 to 4 of these each month with either ActivePlan or UDirect IRA. So if you're looking to invest using your 401k or your self-directed IRA and you'd like to get some tips on how you might do that, be on the lookout for those invitations. We have one coming up with ActivePlan again in about 2 weeks. I've been a guest twice on Real Estate 360. That's a radio show up in San Francisco carried on the Wall Street Journal Radio Network. Why would they ask me to be on that show? I have a little bit of a different perspective on the investment real estate space in that I work with both the smaller investors like you folks, people looking to buy 1 or 2 houses through your self-directed IRA or through your retirement portfolio or what have you. But I also work with several of the larger institutional buyers or hedge funds, in particular Buy Property Direct out of Salt Lake City, Utah, as well as Havenbrook Homes based out of Atlanta, Georgia. So I work with these funds, and so from that I get a little bit of a different perspective, both the bigger, larger buyers and what they're doing and how they're doing it and where they're doing it at, as well as the smaller investor looking to take advantage of what many consider to be the best time in our nation's history to buy investment real estate. And people ask me all the time, they say, is this the right time to get involved in real estate? But the market sort of crashed in 2008. Is this did I miss the boat? Is it too late to get involved? And there's a lot of people that attend these webinars, and actually I recognize one name on today that has been on dozens of these webinars and is yet to invest, and that's okay. I mean, these are meant to be educational. They're meant to be a source for you to know to learn what's going on in the real estate space. But I believe that 2014 is going to be the best time ever to invest in real estate as the smaller investor, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And we're going to talk about that, some of those reasons today. If you didn't know, and most of you didn't know because I didn't know until last week, but 2 weeks ago there was a large convention down in Orlando, Florida called the IMN Convention. It was a convention primarily for the larger institutional buyers, the hedge funds, the banks, the lenders, the real estate investment trusts, those sorts of folks. And it was a large event. It was a week long. It was Monday through Thursday event. I did speak to a number of the people that were down at the show. And the reason I'm bringing this up today and sharing this with you all is there were some relevant things to the smaller investor that came out of that show. And so what you see on the screen here is just, these are some of the classes you could take while you were there at this convention, whether it be a class on market consolidation or did you see the market consolidating. And they were all taught by experts. I saw the resumes of all the people that were there that were the experts that knew all about these certain things. And it was interesting. I got a lot of good feedback. These guys would come back and they'd share with me their experience and what they learned down there. But there was one thing that they learned, and I asked them, both these gentlemen that I work with, what do you see for the smaller investor that came out? And they both said the same thing. And this is what they said. If you look at the very bottom bullet point, they had a class you could attend on portfolio buying strategy and how you'd finance your next purchase. As many of you know, most of you know that have attended these webinars, the number one question that I get asked is, do you have financing? And the number one and only answer for that is no. There's no financing available. And there's lots of reasons for that. There were some non-recourse lenders out there that I didn't think were very friendly in terms of their terms and whatnot. But the banks also weren't friendly to lending, right? I mean, the lenders, the banks, experienced a downturn in their business during the mortgage crisis, brought on by themselves, granted. However, they did experience some financial pain from that experience. And so the reins weren't real loose when it came to lending. So there was a lot of reasons why there wasn't lending available and financing available. But what I learned was that in 2014 and beyond, all of a sudden now the lenders have sort of changed their parameters, and all of a sudden now, really just in the last couple of weeks, we're starting to see some of these folks come to the forefront and offer different financing packages. So I'm going to share some of that with you this afternoon. Many of you know who Blackstone is. Blackstone is the largest owner of single-family homes in the United States. They own 31,000 homes in 13 markets across America. And many of you, and some of you, it was actually 2 weeks ago when somebody on this webinar sent me an email and said, are you aware that Blackstone's slowing down? And I did know that because I did see this press release back in November when they announced that they had basically created a fund called B2R, whose products would be to finance the smaller investor. So they took a little bit of a left turn. They said, well, let's not buy as many single-family homes. Instead, let's finance those that wish to be landlords, that want to be an individual that owns 3 or 4 or 5 investment properties. So B2R tailored something to serve the investors with a portfolio of 5 to 500 homes. I'm going to talk about that now. I've been on the phone twice with them the last couple of days. I got a pretty good idea what their plan is. And by the way, on this webinar, this is going to be for 2 distinctly different types of buyers. The one is going to be the guy that wants to get from 10 or 5 or 3 homes to 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 homes. And then for the smaller individual just looking for that great deal on a finance property, I'm going to share some information about both. So let's just start with B2R Finance. This is what they're essentially offering, and I'm just going to do this real quickly. There's a lot to this. I have all their paperwork. But this is really for that individual that owns 7 homes right now and would like to get to 25 or 50, right? Because that's what they're going to do. BTR is going to finance that individual who's in that category. Or the individual that just wants to get to 5 homes and has the cash to put down to buy 5 homes, and they'll lend for that. So let me just give you, I'm just going to give you a snapshot of what their criteria is. This is not a credit-driven portfolio. This is an asset-based loan. Minimum loan amount's got to be $500,000. So you got to be looking to get, in their view, that's 10 homes in some markets. It's 5 homes in other markets. So they're looking to lend to that individual. Again, this is wrapped up for that individual who's got 3 or 4 homes and wants to get to 10 or 15 or whatever, or maybe they're at 5 or 10 homes and wants to get to 25. It's also for that individual that wants to get to just 5 or 6 homes and has the cash to put down but wants to leverage it. These guys will partner with you. Blackstone will now essentially partner with you. They'll give you the cash to do that. So the minimum loan amount's $500. Doesn't have to be 1 house. That could be 5 houses or 10. Could be for single-family homes. Could be for condos. Could be for apartments or townhomes. As I mentioned, it's leverage. It's a leverage finance deal, but it's also you can leverage your existing properties. In other words, if you've got 5 homes and you want to take the cash out that to buy 10 more, they'll provide the cash for that using the 10 homes or the 5 homes that you already own. So for those people that are, and I have a client like this right now, as a matter of fact, people down in San Diego. I don't believe they're on today, but if they are, I'm talking about you. They're based in San Diego. They want to get to 50 homes. They've got about 10 right now. Their strategy is to use the homes that they have, take loans out against those properties, and then use that cash to go buy more, and then take loans out on that and go use that money to go buy more. And it's a good strategy. It's a solid business model. This will work in that model. If you've got existing properties, you want to leverage those properties, use that cash to go buy more homes, that's available to you. It's got to be a minimum of 5 units. They're not going to loan $500,000 for a house here in Southern California. The loan-to-value rate is going to be about 75%, and the terms are between 5 and 10 years. It depends on the deal. So some complexities that goes into all that, but for those people that are looking for that extra cash flow to be able to expand their portfolio, B2R is now out in the market. By the way, there's others too. There's First Key Lending. I profiled them a couple of days ago. I'm waiting for their package to come in. Their financing is going to be more directed at that one individual looking to buy 1 or 2 homes. I'm waiting for the terms on that. First Key, by the way, they were the folks who sponsored that IMN show. They were the sponsors. So they're obviously very interested in financing this space. When I get the details on that particular loan, I'll be sharing those. Now, on the other side of the spectrum is an opportunity for individuals that are looking to buy some investment property and use financing. So I was talking to somebody the other day on the phone. They were on another group's webinar last week. They talked about financing, but they were financing specific houses. Now, what I said to this woman was, I said, that's grand. Just make sure you're getting the right house. In other words, if you're getting a finance piece on a piece of property and it's got to be on that house, right, that one you're looking at right there, you still got to make sure that that house is the right house to buy. I don't care if you're putting 10% down and financing the balance. If you're paying $70,000, which is what that house was selling at, she was looking at, if you're paying $70,000 for it and the house is only worth $45,000, I don't care that you only put $10,000 down. You still didn't get a good deal. And so she did go back, and she came back to me and said, yeah, you're right. The house was selling for $70,000. It's not even worth $50,000. Well, that's why you're getting a great deal on the finance piece, because you're overpaying for the house. You don't want to do that, is my point. This house here, you can go look it up, 3529 Van Nuys Road in Memphis. This is a lender in the Memphis market. They will loan on any property in the Memphis market in this price range. This particular property is worth $60,000. Zillow says it's worth $85,000. Built in 1940, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. The monthly rent is $795. It's got nice cash flow on it, but you can finance that. So let's just do the numbers here real quick, and I'm going to explain to you how the finance piece works second. Let's do the numbers in the property first. Your annual rent is about $9,500. Your taxes, your insurance, and your management, you see those numbers in there. So you got your net monthly cash flow is $668 per month. So your annual ROI on that $60,000 home that Zillow says is worth $80,000 is 13.5%. Okay, now that's a good investment. You're buying at $20,000 under market value. Your rate of return on the full purchase price is 13.5%, but you can get that house financed. So let's do the finance numbers now. It's 40% down, so you're going to put $24,000 down. You're going to pay points of 5%, which is $1,800. And by the way, that is really good. This is a non-recourse loan, by the way. So typically on a non-recourse loan, the best I've seen for those points has been $5,000. And that didn't matter whether the house was selling for $30,000 or $80,000. So $1,800, those are not horrible fees at all. I know many of you have heard me talk about in these webinars non-recourse lenders and the fees that go into that. And I've said, if you're paying a bunch of fees, you got to really, $1,800 is not a lot of fees when you're considering it's a $60,000 house, $20,000 under market value, and you're putting 40% of that down. You're financing the balance over a 12-year period at 12%. There's no prepayment penalty. So your net monthly cash flow is still $273 a month. So you got $273 a month in cash flow. Tenant's paying your note for you. So you got an ROI based on that financing number of 12%. So what does that mean? It means you put $24,000 down. You add it into that $1,800, so you're into it for $25,800. Based on a $25,800 down into that property, you're still getting 12% cash on your money. So now that model makes good sense. And the beauty of this model is, if the property's in the Memphis market, this lender in Memphis will loan on those properties. Now, it's a non-recourse loan. They're not going to drag you through the mud with regards to your credit or your FICO score. It's not based on that. It's driven by the equity in the property. So it's property-driven, not your profile-driven. So it's not difficult to get approved for something like this. Now, that type of loan makes good sense. Now, I'll continue on through my slideshow now. As a footnote, this same model is going to be available in Birmingham. I don't have all the numbers on that yet, and I don't have all the particulars on that yet, but there's going to be another model available in the Birmingham market as well. Now, if you wonder what the difference between the two markets is, and I'm going to profile Birmingham in a minute ago, these are both just two markets in the South that are very stable. They're every statistical barometer you read on both Memphis and Birmingham is going to say they're going to both appreciate. Memphis actually has been determined to be probably the #1 appreciating market in the United States between now and 2018. So Memphis is right at the top when it comes to appreciating markets, and they're both good cash flow markets too. So they're both good markets to buy in. I'm going to profile Birmingham here in a few minutes. Just some news blips. I'll do these real quick. Bloomberg from February 6th just saying that 77% of investors with at least $1 million own real estate. And the #1 alternative investment pick for 2014, with a third of millionaires saying that they're going to buy in 2014. So the #1 alternative investment pick for 2014 is real estate. That shouldn't shock anybody, really. Bloomberg, again, wealthy investors are turning to rebounding real estate as fixed income yields remain historically low and equity surges. Basically, it's buy low and you can sell high. By the way, I see some questions coming in. I'm going to answer all of your questions at the end of the webinar. So if you look to the right of your screen, there's a button there that says questions. Just press on that. I'll be happy to answer your questions at the end of the webinar. Credit.com, interesting. This is from last year for 2013. 44% of all sales in 2013 were made by cash. In other words, at the time of the sale, the sale was recorded. There was no loan recorded. So there was no loan that was paid for by cash. Why is that? Well, as we talked about really for the first 5 months of 2014, hedge fund guys are still buying homes, folks. I know that. I sell these guys bundles of homes, and they can't get enough because they still see it. Even though some parts of the country have appreciated, they still see rebounding real estate as the best place to invest your money. And then Prudential Real Estate, if you don't know who Prudential Real Estate is, by the way, they're owned by, in 2012, Warren Buffett purchased Prudential Real Estate. Many people don't know that. If you watch any of the cable news channels, you know that there's an ad now that advertises Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Well, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services is Prudential Real Estate. I've been telling everyone all year they would continue to fly under the flag of Prudential because the name recognition and the branding, and I was completely flat out wrong. They are now called Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. But anyway, the Consumer Outlook survey indicated that consumers' perception of residential real estate is increasingly favorable, and that consumers are more committed to buying in 2014 than they were the previous year. I believe that too. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of reasons why 2014 is really the best time to buy for the smaller investor. Some tips, free advice for everybody. We talk about this stuff all the time. You know, what's the strategy for the smaller investor? Number one, you got to buy below market value. I don't care whether it's got a finance piece attached to it. You got to be below market value, and that means you can't buy anything on market, and you've got to buy it directly from the selling party. And what does that mean? Let me define that. When the real estate market crumbled in 2008, a bunch of these things called specialized REO companies came into business, right? These were companies that would go into a market, hire some people to find them houses, fix them up, rent them out, and sell them to investors. And there's nothing wrong with that model. That model was grand. A lot of people bought some really good inventory through that model. The problem was the market has creeped back up. It's become increasingly more difficult for you, the smaller investor, to get the most value out of a piece of property if you're buying it through a middleman who's marketing it up 10 grand. And I'm going to give you some examples on that in a minute. You have to buy it direct. And I'm going to explain what direct buying means, and then I'm going to tell you how you can do that yourself. You want to look for both year-on-year appreciation and ROI. And people ask me, well, as a true story, I'm putting together a package for a gentleman in Atlanta right now. He's got $700,000 to $1 million to spend. And I've said to him, why don't you go into a market where you get both appreciation and ROI? He said, well, I like Atlanta. I said, but you're only going to get appreciation in Atlanta. You're not going to get any ROI there. You're going to get 7-8% cap rates. And his answer was, well, I'm okay with that. So that's fine. If you're okay with a 7 or 8% ROI in a market that's going up 7, 8, 9% per year, if that's okay, that's okay. What I would say, though, is follow where the hedge fund guys go. They go places where they get both, and you can too. Memphis and Birmingham are both markets where you can get both ROI and appreciation. Having your infrastructure in place simply means know who your property management teams are, and we can talk about that at more length at another time, but that is critically important to success. Understand your short and long-term strategies. Only buy fully rehabbed or rent-ready homes. Now, there's probably nothing wrong with buying something that's completely finished but not rented yet, but I would tell anybody, based on past experience, that if you buy something that isn't yet rehabbed, I would just tell you that that's not a good strategy, or you need to approach that sale in a different way. And by that I mean I would not pay 100% for the property unless it's done, until it's done. Just for some advice from experience. So, what's a wholesaler? I'm going to paint a picture of what a wholesaler is, and I'm going to explain to you how you can get direct access to a wholesaler. But I first want to paint a picture because a lot of people say to me, well, Charlie, a wholesaler is just a realtor, right? This is a realtor in the market, right? You know, like the dude in the suit here, right? It's the guy in the suit. It's not the guy in the suit, right? At least most of the guys I've met that are wholesalers don't wear suits, and there's nothing wrong with a suit. But a wholesaler is a guy that's in a market. He's been in that market. He's lived in that market. He's either a realtor, or he owns a construction company, or he's an appraiser, or he's all three. He knows the schools. He knows the crime areas. He knows the streets. He knows, you know, where the good properties are, where the bad properties are. He knows where the owner-occupied houses are. He knows where the rental neighborhoods are. He knows the market. He's the guy that gets access to the inventory. And he's the guy that's been giving these specialized REO groups inventory for the last 5 years that they then mark up and then sell to the consumer. Now, what I like about Ken Corsini's blog here, and I use Ken Corsini's blogs all the time. He writes real estate blogs, and I've been using him for years. What I loved about this one was not so much what he said. He's saying using a wholesaler is a good idea in finding investment property. That guy that's on the ground, frontline guy that understands where the deals are and is going to get you the best deal. What I like most about the blog is when it was dated, October of 2011. Now, why is that relevant? It's relevant because in 2011, you could have never found the wholesaler. Why? Because the industry wasn't defined yet. When I say that 2014 will be the best time to buy investment real estate, it's simply because it's the best opportunity for you to get access directly to the best deals. The market's mature now. You don't need to go through middlemen to get the best deals. You can go directly to those wholesalers to get the best deals. And I'm going to show you what those numbers eventually look like here in a minute. And so how did we do this? My good friend Conrad Ercolano started a company called Income Property HQ. It's simply a wholesaler's marketplace. It's also a website. The markets that you see on the screens are markets that we sell to hedge funds in. We do that for a good reason. We know if a hedge fund's in a market, there's a reason for that. They've studied it. They know that it's a good market for a bunch of reasons. And so if they're there, we go there. And so that's what you see on the screen here. Now, we focus on Memphis, Atlanta, Birmingham. Well, we really focus on all these now, really. Memphis, we've got some great stuff, including some financing deals now in Memphis. Atlanta, we still got people poking around Atlanta, even though the caps are low, and Birmingham is probably Birmingham is the busiest market right now of all. And many of you know we've been in that market for 4 or 5 years. It was a sleeper market once upon a time. It isn't anymore. Toledo, one of our better wholesalers, Angelo Romero, he may even be on today. Hello, Angelo. Nice to see you here. He's down in Toledo now. He's done a great bunch of business down in Kansas City. He's now moved on to Toledo, and he's getting some awesome deals in the Toledo market. And that's a great market if you're looking for a not low income. If you're looking for a low cost of entry, Toledo's an awesome place. You can get in there for less than 30 grand in some cases for nice $600 rentals. Detroit, Michigan. Now, people laugh at Detroit, but, you know, one of the things about cities that go bankrupt is there's only one way to go, and that's what these hedge fund guys see. It's going to go up. And so Detroit, another market, low cost of entry. So that's what the website's all about. Just some comparisons here. I just did this recently. People ask, why out of state? You know, why are you going out of state? Why don't you stay right here in California? It's real simple. Why is the hedge fund guy not buying in California? I just took a city, San Jose, California, compare it to Birmingham. You can see the price. Specs in the house are very similar, but just draw your attention to the bottom line. This is the reason why the hedge fund guys go out of state, because $600,000 in California gets $2,500 a month in rent, and $600,000 in Birmingham, Alabama gets you $9,000 in rent. It's math. That's why people buy and invest outside the state. So, but when you do that, you have to know certain things. So when you're going to buy out of state, I mentioned the guys in San Diego that have some homes, want to get to 25 to 50 homes. They bought me lunch last week. I told them this. You need to go down there. You're going to go buy in Birmingham. You're going to buy 20 homes. Go meet the people. Make sure you got professional property management in place. Property management's everything. If you get a good property manager, you're going to get a high-level performance. They're going to manage it better than you ever could. So don't think that, hey, if it's down the street from me, I can do a better job than that guy in Birmingham, because chances are you can't. They're going to save you. A quality property management team is going to save you more money in the long run than you're ever going to save by not paying that 10% fee, and there's less hassle. Folks, this should be mailbox money for you. This should be just going out to your mailbox once a month or going into your checking account and seeing that that money was wired into your account every month. If you're going to finance that home down in Memphis at $25,000 down, you should be looking at $300 in your checking account every month. It should be mailbox money, and it should be made mailbox money by that professional property management team. Make sure that you understand who these people are. When I met these guys, I said, look, if you're going to buy that many houses, there's got to be a trust factor. You got to know these people. Don't just trust me. I'll point you to the right places. I'll tell you where the best guys in these markets are. I'll probably even tell you who the guys you don't want to talk to in that market are. So there's got to be a trust factor there. But you got to make sure that they operate in a region that's got investment characteristics that are, strong. We do that. We'll go over that here in a minute. No cheap properties. What do I mean by that? Cheap means no Class C properties, B's and A's, maybe some high C's, but you just don't want to get the cheapest stuff in town. Just because you get the cheapest stuff in town doesn't mean you get the best deal. So you want to stay away from that stuff. You want to make sure it's turnkey. That means that it's rented, it's rehabbed, it's ready to go, and I'm going to show you some examples in a second. Make sure your property manager is already in place. That's critically important. Make sure your renovations are high quality. I'm going to show you some here in a minute. If they don't look like this, you shouldn't buy them. You should make sure they're high quality stuff. Make sure these folks got some experience in the business. So whoever you're going to buy from, make sure they've got solid experience in that space. And when we say high integrity, that really means send me the names and phone numbers of 5 people who you've satisfied. Okay, we can do that. Make sure whoever you buy from, you can do that. Make sure there's transparency in numbers. I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a second. Just going to do Birmingham real quick. I'm going to do this very quickly because most of you have seen these slides on Birmingham before, so you're probably getting tired of them. For that, I know a lot of people are on here today that wanted to see what kind of financing pieces we had. And for some of you who I saw that logged on late, if you want to call me afterwards, I can run down for you what some of the finance opportunities are. I probably should have done that towards the end of the webinar, not the beginning of the webinar, but I did it at the beginning as opposed to the end. But Birmingham's one of those markets that, for all the obvious reasons, every hedge fund guy's down there buying property. CNN Money says it's actually the 8th best overall real estate market in the country and 3rd fastest growing real estate market. New Wire says it's the 3rd best cash flow market in the United States. I'm going to show you why here in a second. Again, CNN Money in February said Birmingham, top 10 hottest housing markets in 2014, comes in at number 8. By the way, Memphis comes in at number 10, but yet Memphis is considered to be the number 1 appreciating market over the next 4 years. Now, here's the reason why. This is the kind of property that if it was available to a specialized REO group would easily sell for about $75,000 to $80,000. They'd mark it up $5,000 to $10,000, and why not? The appraisal says it's worth $80,000, so there's nothing wrong with that. But you can buy that directly from the wholesaler for $60,000. And I want you to look at some of these. I did these photos specifically for a reason. The reason was simply as people ask me, well, we want to see more details in the properties. Understand something. Any property that we get, that we come across, has a full dossier in terms of photo galleries, specs, all that sort of stuff. But I want to give you an idea of what you should be looking for in a rehab work. Just take a look at the quality of the rehab in these homes. I mean, these things look almost brand new. Now, you look at this one here, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, huge covered deck, been completely remodeled inside and out. The tenant is already installed, $870 a month on a 12-month lease. This is available now. They're asking $56,000 for it, and the cap's 14%. Now, some of you, and I see 2 or 3 names on today that's been around a while. If you recall a couple of years ago, we'd say, hey, if it's 11 or 12% cap, you're smoking. Why do you think that we're showing you pictures now of homes you can get with a 15% cap? I mean, the market's gone up. Shouldn't caps be going down? Yep. Now, there's a reason why they're going up. They're going up because there's nobody in the middle. You're buying these directly from the wholesaler. You're not paying anybody in the middle. You're buying it directly from the individual who owns the property. Somebody called me up after the webinar the other day and said, I'm buying this property from this company, but they're doing a double escrow. Is there any issue with that? And I said, well, probably no issue, but I mean, if they're doing a double escrow on it, what'd they buy? Are they buying it for 40 and selling it to you for 60? Make sure you're buying it directly from the party who owns it. Again, look at the quality of the rehabs, folks. This is quality stuff here. The group that did this, by the way, 3D Properties, and I don't think Rob Malcolm's on today. I don't see his name in here, but Rob owns a construction company, and so he has the ability to do work that looks just like this. And here's another one of theirs, too. This is on Moonglow. The one I just showed, by the way, was sold last week. But again, look at the quality of the workmanship in the kitchen, the bathrooms. Look at the quality of the work that went into this. And then some of the specs. This is a bigger house, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, completely remodeled inside and out. The tenant is there, $1,000 a month on a 12-month lease. Now, this is a Fannie Mae property. There's a deed restriction on it, which means it cannot be sold until July 5th. We are going to take offers on this. And then whoever wins the bid, this money, just a small deposit would go into escrow, and it would close in July. But you see the square footage. It's a newer house built in 1981. They're asking $68,000 for that house, and it's a 14.37% ROI. And again, get an idea of just the quality of the workmanship that goes into the properties. Now, this is what a real rehab looks like. This is a house that's been completely done, and that's what you want to look at. Again, 4337 47th place. Again, look at the quality of the work that goes into this. The kitchen's practically brand new. As the thing says at the top, this property has everything new, from the roof to the carpet and everything in between. The new tenant's installed at $750 a month. It's on a 12-month lease. It's got another Fannie Mae restriction, so it can't close till July 10th. Already rented at $750, and you can see your numbers here. You got to, again, you're still in the 14% in terms of your ROIs. And again, just to give you an idea of the quality of the workmanship that goes into the property. So I did all that because I've been asked to do two things. Give us more details on what the inside of the properties look like after they're finished, and then also what do the numbers look like? What are the specs? When I say transparency in numbers, it's about understanding all the things that goes into and what comes out of your monthly cash flow, what your numbers look like at the end of the day. So I did that in 35 minutes. So I want to thank everyone for being on today. I'm going to take questions now. I had a couple of questions coming in while I was talking, so I'll answer those first. Yes, the webinar was recorded. I remembered to push the button today. Thank you for that. I did this yesterday, and I forgot to push the record button. I did not forget to do that today. So the webinar was recorded, and we will send it out to everyone that is on today's webinar, as well as those who were registered and were not able to attend. Next question is, can I see the paperwork on the lending opportunities? Okay, yeah, I can send it to you. The ones from B2R, I have the whole portfolio. I have no problem sending that to you. Bear in mind, I make no fees on loans at all. I'm not a mortgage guy. I'm not a lender. That's not what I do. So there's nothing in this for me. I'm just here to show you where you can go to find the best opportunities to possibly finance a property. So the answer is yes. I have your name. I believe we have your email address in our, as a matter of fact, if anybody wants to see the paperwork on what this stuff looks like, just either email me or make a note in the raise your hand, or send me a note here in the webinar, and I will make sure that you get a copy of it. I'll send it out to everybody all at the same time. So I'll make sure you get a copy of it. And that is all the questions I see at the moment. Okay, I'll hang out here for a second. If you've got questions, you can give me a call as well. My name and numbers, I'm going to leave that up on the screen here for a few minutes. You got my email address as well. I'd love to talk to you. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow at, I want to say 10 o'clock. So if you'd like to join us for that, if you missed any part of this, and I did see several people that logged on late. So if you want to see the finance piece again, or if you just want to ask me questions, call me. But I will be doing this again tomorrow at 10 a.m., I believe it is. We'll be sending out reminders on that again tonight, too. So if there isn't any other questions, I want to say thank you all for being on here today. And I look forward to talking to you. I'm going to hang here for a minute because I generally get something that comes in last minute. So if I do, I will answer that question. If I don't, I'm just going to say thank you to everybody, but I will hang here for another minute. So thanks, everyone, for being on here, and I look forward to talking to you. Okay, I do have another question here. Can you use financing through your 401k plan? And the answer is I didn't ask that question. I forgot to ask that. And I believe that Conrad is on here today. Conrad, maybe you can find out about that for me, because I should have anticipated that question, because I generally get asked that. I do know from another group that we worked with, you could do some financing through your self-directed IRA or 401k, but there was, and I can't remember what the I don't want to say challenges, but what the dynamics were of doing that. So I think the answer is you probably can, but I'd have to get with Conrad and figure out how all that would work. But I will find out for you. Ramavati, nice to see you. I will give you a call. Give me about 15 minutes when we hang up, Rama, and I'll give you a call. Do me a favor, Rama, plug in the best number to reach you at, too, if you don't mind. Okay, got another question here. Do you or do you not recommend the Las Vegas, Nevada market? You know what? I have not seen inventory in Las Vegas, no joke, for probably 2 years. You know, in Vegas, Phoenix, Arizona, Southern California, for those who don't know, I'm in Orange County, California. You know, these markets are really, I don't want to say they're burgeoning bubbles, but they sort of are, and I think most of the investment community sees it as that. A lot of people say to me, you're in California, why don't you do stuff in California? I said, well, because I don't know of any investors that would want to buy in California. I mean, as that illustration I threw up on the screen a little while ago about San Jose sort of illustrated, in California, you're going to buy a $500,000 house and get a $2,000 a month rental. I mean, $500,000 in Birmingham buys you almost 10 homes. In bulk, probably would buy you 10 homes. 10 homes there is going to make you 5,000. I mean, it's 2.5 times your ROI. In a market that's going to go up. I mean, many people think Orange County, where I'm at, is not going to go up. To answer your question about Vegas, I haven't seen inventory in Vegas for a little while. I don't even know what the numbers there are anymore. I do know that the last stuff I saw in Vegas, you were seeing caps at 7-8%. Most of the people that were investing in Vegas were looking for other markets. There was actually a group in Vegas that was investing heavily in Vegas. It was actually a Chinese group that was investing really heavily in Las Vegas, and they picked up and they moved. They went to Atlanta and they went to Charlotte, North Carolina. And so, I guess the answer is maybe there's some good deals there. You'd have to look hard for them. I wouldn't tell you to buy, if you're buying for an investment, I wouldn't tell you to buy anything on the MLS. I would tell you to find something that's off market. But that's just not a market that I've been in for quite a while, so I would not be qualified to give you a great answer to that. Okay, I think that's all the questions we got. And Ram, I got your number. Give me 15 minutes, and I'll call you back in a few. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for being on here today. Again, we'll be doing one of these tomorrow. You've got my number if you want to give me a call. And for those of you that raised their hands or requested through this webinar, I will be getting you out the paperwork on these lending opportunities, as well as the Memphis opportunity as well. So thank you so much for being here today, and we'll look forward to